Live from iRacing's virtual Donnington Park racing circuit, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Podium's continuing coverage of the BiS Formula 1600 Championship Series. Tonight's coverage brought to you as always by our friends at MotorRacingChecklist.com 2.0 and Turn 1 Sim Racing as we welcome you into the 2024 side of the calendar, and happy that you're with us on this Wednesday evening. As always, alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Daniel Zippy Salmon up in the broadcast booth. Our producer downstairs is Christian Hill this afternoon, and Zip, we're back at it. You've already thrown out the first "it's been a year" joke of the afternoon, so that one's out of our way. And we're ready to go racing for what is the fourth week of Formula 1600 Championship Series racing, but only the third of those points races coming off of what feels like more than just a month ago last time we were racing on the streets of Chicago.
Oh, it definitely feels like it's been a while, and I was trying to catch myself. Was it last year? And looking at the calendar, you're right, it was. It was December 2023. We are into a new year and a new race here at Donnington National. Honestly, this is going to be one of my favorites of the season so far. Donington Park, I'm lucky enough to have actually been there in person, being from the UK, and it's going to be absolutely insane action tonight with these F1600s.
And you can see it is an action-packed calendar as well for the rest of the 24 side of this calendar. Special events on the horizon as well. We'll go to Bathurst at the start of February, but including tonight, still 4 points races to determine the championship. So the majority of the points have yet to be handed out. So there was a lot of action, and if you're maybe just joining us for the first time, welcome in. We have seen some exciting racing over the course of the opening 3 rounds of this series at Road Atlanta, Brands Hatch, and the Chicago Street Course, but Donnington National is a fun challenge here tonight as the points continue to roll on, and it is still John Benville, courtesy of a race win in the last points race of that Road Atlanta opening week, who holds the championship lead over Stuart Ross and Michael Broomhead, Clovis Gerard, and Connor Janateus inside of the top 5. But the story has been all of the different winners really spread out across the top 13 in the points, drivers who have found victory lanes. So there's not a clear defined breakaway quite yet, and we'll see as we get deeper into the season. Do the Benvillids, the Rosses, the Broomheads, can they continue to build a gap, or would somebody like a Zach Buchanan, who missed that opening weekend for the points at Road Atlanta entirely, but won 2 races of the 3 in Chicago, can somebody like him mount a charge?
Oh, definitely. Zach Buchanan is definitely somebody to watch. He runs in the BiS Radical Series as well. Actually, a lot of these drivers do as well. John Benville, he's also been with us over on the Radical side. Obviously, Stuart Ross, he's more on the F1600, but it's definitely, there's a lot to play for so far, and certainly the F1600s, it tends to be a very close-knit racing, very action-packed, and Donington isn't the tightest of tracks, certainly not compared to Chicago, the street circuit that was at last round in December, but I can see 3 wide pretty comfortably. I can even potentially see 4 wide in places. These guys will test the limits of the track using every inch available to them. And when you get scenarios like that, sometimes, I mean, it can work out in your favor. Zach Buchanan's definitely been on the good end of carnage happening, and he's been able to dodge that. But on the flip side, you can also get caught in that traffic and can absolutely have your race explode in front of you, so to speak.
You really can. I mean, we saw a lot of drivers in the tight confines of the Jersey barriers and K-rails that build that Chicago street circuit. Lots of drivers running into accidents, into the wall there. Very different story here. Certainly, you don't want to put a foot or a tire wrong. You'll still end up often in the grass or in the dirt, but maybe a little bit more forgiving this racetrack as well. I think the surface wider than what we see at a place like a Chicago. You really don't have a ton of those 90-degree corners either, right? You got, turn 7, turn 8. Those are kind of tight. The kink as you come down to the Wheatcroft Straight, but compared to Chicago, where it was just 90, 90, 90, 90. This racetrack a lot more fluid. That means the driving style is going to have to be pretty different. Now, that's not me saying that if you were fast in Chicago, you can't be fast here, or vice versa. But certainly, this is much more of a momentum-based racetrack with sectors, right? Proper sets of 2-3 corners put together, as opposed to one turn straightaway, one turn straightaway. It'll be curious to see how these drivers adapt to a very different type of track.
Oh, for sure. Certainly, I'm definitely got a few corners in mind I'm looking at. But let's have a quick look here at the event format. We're just going through qualifying at the minute. It's 20 minutes, and it's actually an open qualifying as well. This means the cars are on the track together, and certainly in these vehicles, especially that draft. Even though they don't have a big wing, they don't have anything like that. The draft is a huge influence. So certainly, some people will be trying to take advantage of that. We then have first race, 15 minutes. Second race, another 15-minute race. But then the last race, that gets even more interesting. The top 10 from the race 2 get inverted for race 3. So that certainly adds an extra bit of spice to the pot and can make for some really, really good action. There is no pit stops as well. They're just 15-minute races. Like if you run out of fuel, something's gone wrong in the setup department. There is a fixed setup as well. Standing starts, so, no pace lap. It's all about getting off the line. And courtesy of the F1600s, you do get one spare car. So if you are unfortunate enough to have a huge meeting of the marbles, so to speak, then there is another car waiting for you in the pits with penalties as well. 12 backs. Now you can think of that in a couple of ways. It's 12 off tracks, or say you have 3 collision incidents, that's 4x a piece. You can get away with that 3 times. 17x will get you disqualified though. I'd hope nobody would see that in a 15-minute race, but it has happened before.
Yeah, I can count a couple times that happened about a month ago when we were racing in Chicago. Again, a little bit more space here at Donnington, but we'll see just how nice these drivers want to play. And you mentioned the invert for that final feature. It's important to note, right, all 3 of those sprint races are worth the same amount of points, but that invert has been the thing that has kind of thrown the wrench into a lot of people's nights. We have not yet seen so far this season in these points races somebody win the second race of the night and then beat the invert. Now, we did see Poxa do that in the special event at a Brands Hatch, but in terms of points racing in Road Atlanta and Chicago, nobody has been able to win the middle feature race and to be able to overcome the invert. So that has been kind of the great equalizer, and we'll see if that continues to be the case as this season rolls on. Again, tonight's coverage brought to you by MotorRacingChecklist.com 2.0 and our friends at Turn 1 Sim Racing, where champions are born. We appreciate them being a presenting sponsor of tonight's coverage of the BiS Formula 1600 Championship Series here on Podium. Just about 2 minutes left in the open qualifying session, and then we will be on the grid for heat race number 1. Currently, Michael Broomhead, top of the board. We'll see if that lap time can be eclipsed by anybody else. Most of these drivers have put in upwards of 14, 15 laps, so they're certainly taking advantage of this 20-minute open session.
Well, definitely, especially in this car and it being a fixed setup, if you can run the car a bit longer, run it a bit cleaner, that car will get lighter. Those tires, they do take a little bit to fire up as well. So, if you can keep out and just basically run like a little tiny stint, that can actually be very beneficial. And then even more so, the big thing as well is trying to find that draft, find somebody who's not only of a similar pace, but potentially that little bit quicker, and then you can get chagged along by that car ahead.
Yeah, these big straights going to be a factor, not only as you reference in this qualifying session, but as well during tonight's race. Running the smaller circuit here at Donnington, the national circuit, as opposed to the little bit longer 2.49 mile full circuit. So we kind of skip the 10 through 12 complex. The S's is kind of there. You just don't bear left, you bear right and head right to the straightaway. But you skip the Melbourne hairpin and you strip, turn number 12 and you go right to the front stretch. So it makes a lot of times a little bit quicker. Everybody inside of the top 8 or so within the 1 minute 12 second range on the lap times. Is not only is it a beautiful circuit down on the asphalt, but a beautiful circuit through the English hills as well. Final few seconds, still everybody on track, trying to get a lap down to the very last moment. I think Broomhead is just going to be able to hang on, though, as the clock ticks down under 30 seconds.
It's certainly, I've got to say as well, the sheer level of competition in here tonight is absolutely fantastic. Now, there's nobody who's really running away with the lap time. So as I look at the top 10, less than a second dividing all, top 11 even less than a second. And even then going further afield, there still isn't that much in it. There's a lot of people here who are going to have a lot of battles. And don't get me wrong, everybody enjoys winning a race. But for me, if it came down to, running away, just driving laps and, getting a win, that's okay, but I want to have a battle. That for me, the racecraft, the battle of wills, like fighting edge to edge, corner to corner. That for me is where the satisfaction is, and we're going to see some of that certainly coming up in the next couple of races here tonight.
Yeah, I think it just feels a little bit more important or more of an accomplishment if you have to go head to head with somebody and barely squeak it out, as opposed to, having the number on the field for the rest of the event. But with that qualifying session has drawn to a close, so we go down trackside and take a look at your podium starting grid. So Michael Broomhead does qualify on pole. His 1 minute 12.088 second lap time puts him on the front row for this race, and it'll be Nick Horvath alongside just behind in second. Keenan Harris will start in third. It is Zach Buchanan, therefore, in the number 4 position, and Stuart Ross rounds through your top 5. Asan Nakatebev will start from the number 6 position. John Benvalid in 7th. Richard Swindles in the number 8 spot, with Graham Lobin in 9th, and Matthew Murphy rounds out the top 10.
In 11th place, we have Mr. James Carter alongside Clovis Gerard in 12th, with Bill Pritchard from Canada Rainbow League in 13th, with Robert Covey of Howler Racing next to him in 14th, Phil Amaro and James Doherty right behind him, with Jonathan Brooks and Eugene Cartini in 17th and 18th as they are on the grid now. I may have been a little worried we were going to miss the start there, but that's okay. Oh, gotta say, Jonathan Brooks, power to you, sir. Only guy I've seen with a cowboy hat in his selfie. That's fantastic.
Maybe not good for aerodynamic, though, if he's got it on now in P17. We'll see if he can find the speed. Standing start for sprint race number 1, and the green flag is in the air at Donnington. It's a good start for Broomhead. He's not going to pull away, but Horvath not close enough to pull alongside, looking to the outside. Broomhead, your leader through turn 1.
It's been a clean start so far from everything I can see. I'm running on board with Graham Lobin myself, and seeing potentially 3-4 wide back there, but they're pretty quick to get into single file, and I can't say that I blame them. Certainly going through this complex here, you can go too wide, but you're going to compromise so much extra speed in doing that. As Sven Benverly there, just rubbing a wheel in the sand, really using all that track.
The challenge for second was short-lived after it was Keenan Harris who was able to get by Horvath, and now looking for the race lead. Tries to make a move, thinks better of it, does not make the dive. Meanwhile, for third, here comes the challenger, Stuart Ross. Going to try to get underneath Nick Horvath in the battle for third. They'll go side by side as up front. Harris still wants to challenge Broomhead for the lead, try to use the draft to his advantage, but he'll stay on the gearbox and doesn't make the dive.
Buchanan making a bit of a run there as well, potentially. You can see they are spreading out a little bit, and he had a little bit of space there going there, but Buchanan is now under attack from the Cardenbev. You can see him just at the bottom of your screen there. Buchanan on the inside, and he's there, and he's got a hold off the Cardenbev behind him as he chases Harris ahead of him. He really is the meat in that sandwich right now.
Hard to miss that 40 is Zach Buchanan, the bright yellow colors. He makes that move into the number 5 spot as they run right now. Ross next up the road. Look at your top 3, though. They are all lined up nose to tail, still chasing Broomhead. Harris got all the way physically onto the back of that double O coming down the Wheatcroft straight. Did not make the dive off into turn number 1. Instead decided to stay in line with him. And now as they head down the back half of the race course here, Harris continues to play the patient game, but with Nick Horvath climbing his way back to third, shaking off a challenge by Ross. If he wants to put the pressure on Keenan Harris, that it might force that one car to make a move on Broomhead sooner than he would prefer. Here again with the run, no move, he stays in line P2.
You can see them really starting to hop the curve a little bit there as well. I can't imagine they're going to get away with too much, but thankfully not upsetting the balance of the car. As I'm looking across the track, I am seeing multiple battles going on. You can see there a couple of people, that's 3 wide in the background, but we're going to stay with the leaders right now. Broomhead having to defend going into turn 1. You see Horvath, has Horvath just got passed by Harris? Yes, that's right, Harris has made it past him through the first part of the track there, as I have a Mr. Arkwright moment and fail to choose my words.
The Horvath watches on from third. Harris still in the number 2 spot. Broomhead still the leader. but it's more than just a 3-car race because Ross watches on from 4th. The aforementioned Zach Buchanan 5th, and Hassan Nakadambev from P6 as well. All those cars separated by less than 1.5 seconds. Just look how much these top 5 have pulled away, as now Ross going to go side by side and make the move. The big loser in that exchange is going to be Horvath, who drops 2 spots, maybe 3, and Buchanan continues his charge looking to the inside, but not making the move on Stuart Ross.
I get the feeling that Buchanan is getting held up. Well, Ross is off. I don't know what happened there. I'm guessing he clipped the curve potentially, but we'll have a quick look at that in just a second. I was watching as well that last lap. Benvelid actually, he got a little bit loose, got sideways, but thankfully no incident. So he's dropped back through the field, just in case anybody's wondering how he's gone back to 15th. But Ross dropping off the radar there. He is flying back and he is out right now. So this is good news for Buchanan. He is back on the podium spot and he is right on the, I'd say bumper, but he hasn't got one. He's right on the tail end of Keenan Harris there. Broomhead not far ahead. So we have a three-way battle for the podium right now. First, second, third, all of them up for contention. But again, if these guys fight a bit more, Nakadambev could get a shot here to join that battle.
Well, that was a big off for Stuart Ross, whatever the issue was that has taken him out of this race, because they had all been chasing John Benvelid coming into tonight's race, and Benvelid right now 15th in the running order. So Ross and Broomhead were set to gain a ton in the championship, and now Stuart Ross drops to the tail end of the field just like that. We go back and watch the replay. You're looking for that bright 40. Zach Buchanan as a reference. In front of him, there's some contact with the curbs, and that car turns into the corner, but I don't see any driver input to make the left-hand part of turn 10 to be. The only thing I can think of is he either had an issue physically with his computer or dropped connection from the server at that very moment, because he turned in, and then there were no more inputs from that car.
And as you say, I'm just seeing that the server's saying that Stuart Ross connection dropped due to upload packet loss, so a hardware issue has caught the better of our friend there, Stuart Ross. Very capable in an F1600. We've seen it time and time again. But this battle's still going on for the top 3. But we've got actually multiple battles happening. I'm just seeing Pritchard. He's just made a move as well. He's managed to sneak past Kobe, I believe. Kobe or Gerard. He snuck past somebody. I've seen him do it, but multiple battles happening throughout the field. But we're going to stay on board with the leaders right now. First, Broomhead. Second, Harris. And third, Buchanan. With Nakadambev not able to close the gap to get himself yet in that mix.
It just needs a little bit more to catch those top 3. This used to be a 6-way battle for the lead. It is now very clearly a 3-car race with still 8 minutes and change left on the clock, nearing the halfway point in sprint race number 1. Michael Broomhead across the stripe now has led all 5 laps of this race so far. Keenan Harris started 3rd, but made a quick pass on the at-time P2 runner Nick Horvath to get to 2nd. He has not dropped back since. And then Zach Buchanan started 4th, made the pass for 3rd. So those drivers have been on the move, but they seem very even. And maybe a small challenge brewing for 2nd. Buchanan putting more pressure on Harris. Harris, with a bad exit there, goes off and into the grass. And does this open the door for the 40 of Buchanan?
He's seen the opportunity and he is keen to get there, but certainly at this point, you know, with the success he's had so far, as Broomhead goes for a lawn mowing expedition, but I don't know if I'd be risking too much right now. After having a good couple of podiums in his debut round, you know, I'd say a 3rd place is a good place to be. You know, you got to weigh up the risk versus the reward. You know, certainly you can see the guys, they're really pushing the car, really exploring the track limits, and you know, I don't know how hard I would push. It's only heat 1 right now. You know, this will, because there's no invert later. You know, if you finish here, well, it's going to help you in the next race as well, and then maybe make the move in the 2nd race. Certainly, that's a tactic that I would be certainly thinking of.
Yeah, if you finish 2nd in this sprint, you're going to start 2nd in the middle one. So track position is important. Another mistake there. Keenan Harris seems to be stepping a little bit over that line. But again, Buchanan unable to capitalize, as Broomhead has simply just not made those mistakes. Now here's the dive to the inside. Buchanan and Harris side by side, inches apart in the battle for 2nd, and somehow again the 1 car shakes off the challenge.
I almost wondered if there was contact there. I'm just checking the replay, and maybe a little bit of Buchanan's left rear to Harris's right rear, but no damage that I can see. You know, it's definitely really using the track. And Buchanan, he had a good bit of a slide going there, and he held it pretty well. So I'm glad that that didn't end in chaos. But you know, he's obviously he's keen to get that second place, and this is working out well for Broomhead right now. He's pulling away. He's up to like almost an 0.8 of a second gap as Buchanan there. He's gone on the inside and he's got it. He's got second place. But can Harris fight back? We'll have to wait and see.
You can see the drivers well to the back as well in the distance, as there are now 8 laps in the works from the Donnington National layout. Broomhead still in the #1 position, has been able to grow his advantage after the battles over the course of the last 2 laps between Zach Buchanan and Keenan Harris. We talked about, of course, third round of the championship, points on the line. This could be big for Michael Broomhead, who entered tonight third in the standings. That was 12 points behind championship leader John Benvalid, who has not had a good opening sprint of the afternoon, but it has gotten better. Benvalid back up to P8 after sliding into 15th spot earlier in this race. So damage control ongoing for the 08, but I believe if they finished as they run, we'd be talking about Michael Broomhead as your championship leader headed into the second sprint.
Well, I was just starting to get the urge that, well, you know, somebody should give him the commentator's curse. So, Evan, thank you for taking that responsibility for me. But I'm just having a quick look at the standings right now, and I always like to make a particular reference to the hard charger. And currently, that is the 55 car of Jonathan Brooks. He is up 7 positions right now. So, well done to you, sir. And we're just going to step by quickly as well. Fastest lap right now is held by Buchanan with a 1:12.319. But it's so close. Broomhead just 6 thousandths of a second behind him for the fastest lap. That's how close the racing is right now.
And there's a look at Jonathan Brooks. You talked about him rocking the cowboy hat. Still better race pace than what he had in qualifying after having to made up those 7 positions. I think the only bad news for him is I don't know how much opportunity is to gain more. It looks like that James Carter is within striking distance. That's a realistic passing opportunity. But after that, there's just not a lot of cars, and he may kind of max out as a P9 at best. So that is one of the challenges that comes with starting towards the rear. You could be fast. Positions is one thing, gap is another. And trying to make up, 3 seconds between you and the next car, the further up you get in the running order, the more difficult that challenge is going to be. The cars behind Carter and company continue to fight. Looks like it's an aggressive battle between Phil Amaro and Matthew Murphy. They're side by side, as the one on the move is Murphy making the pass on the 26 car in the bright orange entry.
He's definitely he's making his intentions well known. You can see that. Ooh, I thought he was going to get a bit of a bounce off the curb. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a shout out for his paint. I actually think his paint job's one of the nicest on the field right now. I mean, looking through, we do see some classy paints, but I kind of like the wolf motif. I don't know about, what do you think, Evan?
Actually, the one that stood out to me, and I'm not even looking at paint schemes, the thing I enjoy most about these F1600s is how well you can see the helmets, right? So many of the closed cockpit cars on the surface, you can't see, who does a custom helmet or even a custom fire suit. But I think Matthew Murphy's rocking basically kind of like a red and white helmet scheme. So I think maybe not paint scheme wise, but helmet wise, Matthew Murphy's got my vote. A little bit of reminiscence of the Canada flag with a maple leaf on the front, but it's got a star on the side as well. So completely unrelated to your prompt, but his helmet just happened to catch my eye.
You know what? I live in Canada. I can make peace with that. So, yeah, no, can't fault for that. I'm trying to remember which race it was, but we did have one particular person who had a very colourful helmet. I know I myself, I run in a team called Top Gun Racing, and my colleague actually had, he's called Maverick, and he had the Maverick helmet on. So he actually got some screen time. I think that was in BiS Radical Season 1, actually. I think that came up. So, anyway, to continue on your point of helmets, but let's have a quick look to see where the battles are. It looks like Carter and Brooks are still the ones to go at it. Brooks, I do wonder if the stewards will see if the cowboy hat gave him extra horsepower. I don't think it quite works like that, but he's keen, and he is chasing Carter. He is narrowing that gap And at this point, I'd say he's probably just about in the draft. It's going to help pull him along that little bit further. Carter, he won't be getting the draft from Benvelit ahead of him, so realistically, he's got to try and hold on for about the next 2 minutes and keep Jonathan Brooks behind him.
And just looking at the lap times, Brook last lap a 1:13.396 for Carter up the road, a 1:13.2. So in fact, it was Carter gaining a little bit. So unless we see a mistake out of the 70, I just don't see Brooks being able to get that one final spot. If anything, he may have to worry about who's behind him, with some of the challenges coming amongst these other drivers, with Matthew Murphy being so close. Murphy having, just passed Phil Amaro not that long ago, but he's driven all the way up to the back of the 55.
Yeah, he's definitely, we're getting more battles going on here. But certainly with a minute to go, it looks like what's going on? Broomhead's dropping through the field. He's now 4th. Oh dear.
There may have been contact between the leaders and Michael Broomhead off track after contact with the 40 of Zach Buchanan. So it was not a fight for the longest time, but on the first turns of this final lap of the race, Broomhead tried to make a move on Buchanan, got squeezed out, and they touched. There's the look at it. He moved to the right. Buchanan immediately apologized and said, listen, I thought I gave you more room. That's not what he wanted to do, but that is a big moment in the championship. Here's the look to the right. They get to a kink up the road. He just runs him out of room and off and into the grass. It's a good piece of driving by Broomhead to keep that car on track, but all those points that he was looking to gain on championship leader John Benvelit, a big chunk of them just slipped away with that mistake.
Well, I got to agree with you there. That was an absolutely fantastic save by Broomhead. I didn't see it happening. And then I'm also, even though Buchanan, he's actually, that's good sportsmanship. He's gone and he's owned the incident and then tried to put it right. So I gotta say respect to you for that as well. Like it's something that's nice to see, good sportsmanship in privatized racing, I guess. That you don't always get that courtesy everywhere, that's for sure.
Well, to that point, Buchanan, after apologizing to Broomhead for making the contact, actually slowed down to allow Broomhead to overtake him in the standings. So at the checkered flag, Keenan Harris is your race winner. Was running in 3rd for most of that second half of the race, had slipped to 4th even at one point, but was able to maintain 2nd for a lot of it. And then with the contact between those two, and with Buchanan pulling over to give the position at a courtesy to Broomhead, Keenan Harris wins this race, and Assad Nakatembev will come home in 2nd. So a big shuffle amongst your finishers at the end of sprint race number 1.
Yeah, definitely. We had a little bit of a colourful ending there. So the good thing is, we're going to get another chance at that. And even though they had the incident near the end, Broomhead's going to start 3rd, Buchanan's going to start 4th. There's still possibilities afoot, and it all going to cascade on. So even if it does go pear-shaped in this next race, you know what? If you finish 10th here, you're going to be sat pretty for the main one. So, there's a lot to be had by that. I know certainly when I drove the Radicals, I would often try to just get to 10th. I would fight to get to 10th in the hopes of hanging on against some of the guys driving against me. But they're going to be gritting up any second as well. So that's up to you there, sir.
Yeah, well, we take a look in the starting grid. Going to be your finishing results from sprint number 1. So Keenan Harris and Assad Nakatembev going to make up the front duo, with Michael Broomhead, Zach Buchanan, and Grant Lobin inside of your top 5. Richards Windows, Clovis Gerard, John Benvelit gains back to P8. That is a big recovery for your at-once championship leader. We'll start ahead of James Carter and Matthew J.R. Murphy, at which they finished in the top 10. That leaves us with Robert Covey, Phil Amaro, Nick Horvath, Bill Pritchard, Eugene Contini. You got James Doherty, Jonathan Brooks, and Stuart Ross. Again, that is both your full race results from heat race number 1 and your starting grid for sprint race number 2. So the clock ticks down. It was a clean race down to turn number 1 in the first sprint of the day. Let's see what happens when we try it all again, and keep an eye. Maybe the fastest 2 cars in this race, Broomhead and Buchanan, contact at the end of the first race. They're going to be starting from 3rd and 4th position. Let's see what kind of a fight they can mount against that race leader, who's going to be Keenan Harris.
Well, the good thing is as well, Stuart Ross, he had a little bit of an issue before. He is actually back into this race as well, so he could be someone to watch out for, potentially the hard charger. So we'll leave it at that for now. Race start coming in 7, 6, 5. But
Clock's ticking. Drivers look for the lights. And for sprint race number 2 here at Donnington, green flag is in the air and off they go. It's an even and clean start, at least out of the blocks for everybody. Quick dive over to defend for P2 for the Cotton Bev, but Michael Broomhead goes to the inside, side by side for second, and give it to the 00.
Just watching Benville at the start as well. He's already gained 2 positions in turn 1. Absolutely fantastic move diving it down the inside, but you can see there Broomhead, he is already up and on it into second place. Nicardon Bev right behind him, Buchanan right behind them with a little bit of a gap there to Graham Lobban as well. Now they've got to remember as well, this is the hardest thing about having such short races back to back. The tyres are now cold. The car is not going to handle exactly the same. It's going to be a little bit more slippery, so hopefully the guys can remember that and not explore the grassy features of the track too much.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers were talking to pre-race about how tricky these cars are, and that one is out of control. Big mistake. Keenan Harris slid through the entirety of that complex. One car is off and into the sand behind us. It's Cartini, Covey, couple of drivers with some incidents, and up front now, new race leader. No surprise, it's Michael Broomhead.
I see as well, Buchanan took a little bit of a scenic route going into that last chicane. Benvalid, again, he was able to absolutely capitalize on that. If I am not mistaken, he's now in 4th place.
Yeah, Benvalid did not have a good start to the night, despite qualifying P7. That was a decent number in the first heat. He slipped back early, was in the high teens, had to claw his way to a P8 finish. And now he sees Broomhead and Ross, the likes of Gerard.
Oh,
and a spinner. It's Nikodemev off it into the grass.
I'm hoping he doesn't rejoin into traffic. That's maybe a little close for comfort, but I think he might have just got away with it. Definitely not what he had in mind, but you know what? As a commentator, I shouldn't take favorites, but this is looking awesome for Benvalid right now. Absolutely fantastic. As I see Bill Pritchard there, he's just shot into the pits. He was in that incident just like last lap with Cartini, I believe. I can see him in the background, an unfortunate incident there. But, you know, look at this so far. Broomhead, Harris, Benvalid, Gerard. Gerard's moving up as well. Look at that. Attaboy. He's up 5 places. But the hard charger, I said he was somebody to watch. Stuart Ross right now, up 9 positions. What a boy.
And Stuart Ross is on the move once again, trying to make up. He was a top 3 car in that first sprint race, but had a connection issue that took him out of the race, causing him to finish dead last at no fault of his own. He is really trying to make up those points because Ross P2 in the championship with a win and 2 second-place finishes to his name so far this season cannot afford to have a throwaway night if he wants to be a contender for this F1600 Championship Series title. Still a long way to go, though, as he watches on from way back in, I think what's going to end up being now the number 9 spot. So Ross continues to pick away, but the gap is the challenge. He needs to get to that next group of race cars, and they're about 2-3 seconds up the road. That is a big battle, though. You see about 3-4 cars there all over each other up the road. So if this gang right here starts fighting with each other, could better his odds of catching up.
Definitely. I mean, certainly, if he can just about catch the draft, he'll be set. But then on the flip side, he's in 9th place right now without putting him in 2nd for the main race, like for the feature race. Regardless, he is sat pretty right now. Buchanan as well, as he's just gone and took 10th position off James Carter. You know, that'll put him on pole for race 3. This is all good news. You know, it's almost like he's been given a safety net.
And we'll see, can they walk that line between what is the best way for me to maximize my points? If I sit P10 and I get the invert, am I going to get more points over the course of 2 races by getting a 10th and then a question mark, right, by starting on pole? Or what if I can max out at a 4th or a 5th, and that won't invert me as much and get another 4th or a 5th, right? Does that give me a better average finish? We'll see. Those are all the scenarios that these drivers are running through in their head. Looking at the side-by-side battle between Clovis Girard and Matthew J.R. Murphy. Murphy, the kind of Aero McLaren, the recognizable orange and blue colors on the right-hand side of this battle. To his outside, the challenge from Clovis Girard, but Murphy able to make the pass in the battle for P4. And not done yet now is watching on. Nick Horvath joins the party. Graham Lobin also joins the party. 4-car battle in the run down to turn number 1. They'll all go way to the extreme left-hand side to maximize the turn in and apex of the corner. Clovis Girard did not do that and is going to be beat on exit. The 382 car, Horvath, a much better run off the turn, and Girard's going to lose 2 spots in 2 laps. 27 car struggling a little bit here in the middle bits of sprint race number 2.
Well, I've got to say, at least they realise when their microphone's muted. I mean, power to them, they know that what they're doing is actually having an effect. So a little bit of a rookie error there on my part, but as you can see here, this battle's still going strong. Girard absolutely taking a punishment there. Horvath, he's on the inside as well as they're going to head up into Coppice. You know, at some point, he's going to have to cut across and defend. Just like that. There you go. You got to sometimes, you have to take that defensive line, you know, sacrifice your own exit speed in order to try and hold someone off. Like, it's a bit like a Sparta Frankenstein. It's the best example I can think of off the top of my head. You could pass somebody in turn 1, go through Eau Rouge and do all of that. But then you're going to get passed on the straight after. So I'm sure Donnington has those zones as well. You've got to weigh up, where do I want to pass? Where do I want to defend? You have to manipulate the people around you. I mean, it sounds so cold and so savage, but realistically, that's what you have to do if you're going to have success in this race. You can just see Murphy just dipping a toe in the water there.
We see that all the time, right? If you're trying to manipulate the car around you and maybe you have a run on somebody, you can kind of flash the nose to the inside, right? Step out of line to make them think that you're going to go for the pass. Don't do it. They go to the inside to block, and then that therefore will compromise their corner entry and maybe give you the advantage and the opportunity then to carry the speed off the corner and get the pass done there. So that gamesmanship is happening every second of every minute of every lap in this race and all the other races going on across the iRacing service. One car got a little bit out of shape towards the back there. That was Stuart Ross. No spots left as we continue to watch this battle rage on. It's all for about position number 4 on back. Not missing a ton up front. It is close between Broomhead and Harris, but no exchanges for the lead in quite some time between first and second. And look at the car slide through the S's there in the final set of corners.
I was noticing that as well. He's definitely given that thing a little bit of a wiggle, but look at the absolute chain of cars behind him. As Horvath, he's made a move almost touching there. It's almost like they had 3 wheels right in a line. Murphy taking a little bit of an evasive route there. Horvath not quite got a nose on it. They're like nose to tail. Horvath at best just getting a wheel, maybe a quarter alongside the rear wheel there. Not quite enough to assert any particular right to the corner, but enough to certainly keep Murphy very aware of his surroundings in that scenario.
You can see the leaders up the road from this battle by about 5.5 seconds. Broomhead leads Harris, who leads John Benvalid, P3, the highest that your championship leader coming into tonight's action has been all night long. And then this battle that continues between the 4th and 5th spot between Matthew Murphy and Nick Horvath. Behind them, Girard and Lobin fight for 6th and 7th spot. That's the next duo of 2. And that bright green entry, Lobin makes a quick dive behind them to try to make the move, and will do so in that final set of corners. So nice pass there, and now getting swallowed up on the exited turn number 10 is Clovis Girard. 2 spots gone, maybe 3 spots gone in the battle back there for 7th.
He's got to be careful. He's currently back in 9th now. Oh, that's contact with Buchanan, but he's managed to hold on. Good little wiggle there. Now, don't get me wrong. If Girard does drop back to 10th, that's not the end of the world for him. It's going to put him on pole for the next race, but it's just there's too many people too close to play that game, as you can see there, side by side with Buchanan. Oh, that's Murphy off. Murphy's gone off.
Swindles had spun earlier, and now in front of this battle, it is a self-inflicted error for Matthew Murphy, pushing it too hard, trying to stay ahead of the constant pressure that Nick Horvath was putting on him, and he pushed the car over the edge. Let's take a look at what happened. Again, this is separate of the battle that we were watching, and that is all on his own.
I must say, he was definitely shaking the car more than anybody else, but he was keeping hold of it. I guess the tyres decided at that point, you know what, we're done. Oh, Gerard's in an incident as well. Final chicane. I'm seeing the smoke screen. It is an evasive maneuver. I don't know if he's going to get away with it, though. You can just see here, rejoining the track. I think that's going to be too much. He has dropped out of the top 10 now. He started so well, and he's just, it's not been going so well for him in the second race.
Yeah, he got eaten alive by that pack of cars when they caught him. He lost, 3 or 4 spots there all at once. And then just when you thought he had stopped the bleeding, he just overdrove it into one of the corners and had to kind of take a evasive maneuver down to the inside and go through the grass as to not run over Nakatembev. And Clovis Girard, who started this race in 7th, all of a sudden finds himself down in 14th position and continuing to slip. So he is well out of the good points, and he is out of the invert, which would be a terrible result for him in this second sprint to not only get poor points in this one, but then be set up for not a lot of success into the third and final race, as we are inside of 5 minutes to go.
Oh, poor Girard. I mean, more carnage. Is this man like an incident point magnet today?
There was a spinner up the road. It was Phil Amaro who lost the 26 car on his own. That was the blue and yellow car. And when he got sideways, there was nowhere for James Doherty to go, who made contact. And then Girard got a little bit of it, but Doherty got the most.
Doherty is currently rocking a meatball flag with Phil Amaro sharing that dish. But I'm just bringing in another prospect here. I'm just checking out the incident points, and now I am assuming that it's just for this race, but currently right now, the Nakatembev especially is going to have to be close, but let's leave that for a minute, have a quick look at this incident here. That is the 27 of Girard. Yep, 27 of Girard. Oh, we're live again. My apologies. Let's get back to the incident points. So right now, Nakatembev, he's sat with 11 incident points. Now remember, you get a penalty at 12 of disqualification at 17. Now, he sat at 11, and Clovis Girard's actually sat at 10 incident points as well. He's really going to have to, be on his best behavior for the last 2 or 3 minutes of this race, at risk of, I mean, it's too short a race to serve a penalty. You're really going to get penalized, but currently in that 12th spot, I'd say he is out of the running at getting the top 10.
So the storyline of this second sprint race has been the mistakes. Most of them self-inflicted as opposed to car-to-car contact, and we are not done yet from all of the battling. This group here, all for what is 4th position on back. It is the bright yellow number 40 is Zach Buchanan, the white 67 is Stuart Ross. You've got the silver number 382 of Nick Horvath, and then that green number 12 of Graham Loban, all fighting for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Graham's got the best view of it as he watches on from the caboose.
As you can see there, they're going through turn 6, up through 7, through McLean's now, heading right up into that blind corner, turn 8 off Coppage. You can see there, different lines, some guys going a little bit wider, but they're going to go back down the Starkey Straight as probably one of the fastest part of the tracks. Fastest part of the track for these guys, as they're going to head towards turn 9 and 10 into the S's. See there, quite a heavy braking zone. Graham Loban, he'd been very conservative with the curbs, and oh no, was that Benvalid? No, it was Harris. Harris has gone off in the chicane. Oh dear.
From a second spot on track, and pinch me if I've told you this before, but a self-inflicted error this time takes him out of the race lead. Harris was passing a lapped car, and that's where the issue came. It was trying to, or a lap car, sorry, was the late car into that, but he was trying to pass Broomhead, right? Trying to make a pass for the lead, and it just put him out of position. And then he got sideways, got loose, lapped car came in late, nearly got into him. And there you go. It goes to the point that you had made earlier about would you push for the win? Would you risk? based on the invert, P2, P1, they knew they were going to get the short end of the invert. He wanted the bulk of the 25 points, and instead, Harris will go from fighting for the lead to being down in 14th spot. Absolutely incredible.
Definitely was not worth the risk on that occasion, but Broomhead, all he's got to do is keep it together as he's going to head for the checkered flag. Even Broomhead can't mess this one up. So, sorry, Mike, that's a little harsh, but he finally makes it across the line. First place for Broomhead, second for Benvlid. What a recovery there. Third for Buchanan. Now, was Benvlid the hard charger? Let me check. No, Stuart Ross for the hard charger, right behind him in fourth, with Nick Horvath in fifth, and so on and so forth. We'll leave the standings for a minute as we watch the last few cars coming across the line. Now, crazy action here from the F1600s. You just when you think it's all sorted and played for, and chaos, panic, and disorder, the world changes, as it were.
There is no good place to be in that race. Top 5 cars, top 3, you're spinning out. Mid-pack, you're spinning out. Back of the pack, I'm sorry, you're spinning out again. I mean, there was just no safe place to be, and these cars have been really unstable. You would think that you would see more of those kind of mistakes in the first race, maybe drivers unsure of where that line is, but I don't know if they got a false sense of security based on the fact that the first race didn't have a ton of self-spinners, but they started pushing more, right? Trying to get that extra 100th here and 100th there, and it cost them. And in the end, Michael Broomhead gets the win. It is his first feature win since the first race of the season back at Road Atlanta. He takes home the checkered flag by 4 seconds over championship leader coming into tonight's race, John Benvelin. So these two are going to be really close in the points. Headed out of this third and final race. Coming up next, Buchanan, Ross, and Horvath will come home inside of the top 5 with Lobin, Nikonobev, Carter, Swindles, Brooks, and that is it for the drivers in the top 10. Now on the right side of your screen, Murphy, Gerard, Harris, Covey, Amar, Doherty, Cartini, and Pritchard. That is the exact order at which 11th through 18th will grid for this third and final feature. What does change is all those names on the left, because you gotta flip them. So 10th in the second race means pole in the third for Jonathan Brooks. He'll bring us to the green flag, and you'll have Swindos, Carter, Nikonobev, and Lobin, and now all of a sudden inside of the top 5.
It's definitely a good place to be. We'll see if Jonathan Brooks can certainly save a horse and ride a cowboy, I guess, to see if he can run away with it at the very start. But they're on a little bit of a warm-up right now, so potentially let's just mention our sponsors again if we got a chance. I'm definitely appreciative for them. Motor Racing Checklist 2.0, courtesy of Suelio Almeida. Now, this guy, he sim races. He also got to drive a real race car as well. Good material, good course, worth checking out for sure. And again, thank you very much for sponsoring us. We've also got a QR code as well, so we're going to get into that a bit later. Turn 1 Sim Racing, thank you very much for sponsoring us. And yeah, also I'm getting told as well, Mike Broomhead is browsing the Discord chat. We're going to have there you go. There's the QR code. If you want to join in with the BiS, that's Britannia iSports, we do Radicals, we do F1600s, and coming very soon, the IndyCar series as well. You're going to be stuck with me and maybe even Evan as well, if we can swindle him into commentating. But if you want to get into the action, scan that on your phone now. Magic happens, and then you will land in the Discord here with us. So anyway, that's how you get in on the action.
A ton of fun stuff going on here Wednesday nights on Podium. And again, just scan the QR code on your screen to join the BiS Discord, and you can get in on the action and be a part of all of the different tiers of racing. And I'll tell you what, it's been a while since I've been able to say IndyCar on an iRacing broadcast. That's fun to hear, and is one of course, many things that is exciting going on all across the iRacing platform. As we go into this third and final feature, we break the format a little bit, right? Not only do we have the invert, but unlike in between the first 2 races where it's go, 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 maybe a small pause, right? A 5-minute warm-up session. These drivers have an opportunity to take a breath. Almost nobody using it, though, which I find interesting. It's not like they feel like I'm going to go out there and I'm going to find something all of a sudden, right? I mean, each of these races, yes, they are timed races, but you're still getting a dozen laps or so in on each of them. They kind of agree, listen, we're not going to find anything with an extra lap or two. We've learned all that we can. It's just kind of a mental break. Take a moment, take a deep breath, drink some water, and then get ready for the third and final feature race of the night.
Well, I don't know about you, but myself, I always found that the excitement of the race, a good chance to get out, stretch my legs, and, relieve myself and, use the facilities was kind of, that was a much needed opportunity. But I just messaging Clovis Girard, trying to give him some words of encouragement, like, come on, you are better than this. We've seen you can do it. We've seen you drive. I've practiced with him in these cars. He has the skill to do better. I'm really expecting more from Girard this race. Don't get me wrong, you weigh out the risk versus reward, but he has pace in the car. You just focus, concentrate on your corners, but you've got this. Have a good go at it. A little word of encouragement there for Clovis Girard in the 27 car, I believe, yes.
Yeah, he has not had a good go thus far. It's just kind of been mid so far. Started 12th, finished 7th in the first one. Started 7th, finished 12th in the second one. It could be worse, right? I mean, we've had Bill Pritchard to get a DNF in the most recent race, not even getting all the way to the grid. Of course, we remember what happened with Stuart Ross and having a connection issue that took him out of it. But, sometimes when there's something catastrophic, a spin, a connection issue, something along those lines, there are positives to pick on. But Clovis is just looking for something, a spark. And, of course, after finishing this most recent one outside of the top 10, will not get the benefit of the invert. So it is going to be a tall order for all of those drivers inside the bottom 8 to be able to challenge, because they're going to have a lot of speed mid-pack that they're going to have to stack up behind. And with that redistribution of speed, this may be one of the most aggressive starts of the night that we'll see.
Oh, I definitely think it's going to be colourful. I was just thinking, actually, being on pole potentially is not the best place to be for a race start like this, because you already know they're going to get a bit of a draft. If you're maybe in third place, I'd say that's probably the hot spot right now, because you're then going to be able to use that draft and maybe just get enough that you can slingshot into the lead for turn 1. Maybe.
It is a decent enough run down to turn number 1. We will see if they can take advantage. We take a look at your starting grid for the third and final feature race of the night here at Donnington Park. Pole position, courtesy of the invert, goes to Jonathan Brooks, who has only got a 17th and a 10th to show so far for the night. Can the Cowboy make it happen? It'll be Richard Swindles starting in second. James Carter and Assad Khanambev will start third and fourth. The Khanambev's got a P2 on the night. Can he turn that into a win? Graham Lobin will start from the number 5 spot ahead of Nick Horvath in P6. Stuart Ross, who DNF'd the first race of the night, will start from P7. Zach Buchanan in 8th spot, with John Benville in 9th, and Michael Broomhead inside of the top 10, 11th on the back. Don't get the benefit of the invert. Final time this afternoon from Donnington, looking for the green flag in the third and final feature. We're underway. No start there for the inside of Swindles, but not a good start either for James Carter. Carter blocks Nikanamev, looking to the inside for the lead. Instead, they'll be side by side for second, and they touch. Spinner as around goes James.
Oh! Don't get me wrong, it's always interesting when that happens, but I'm glad it's a sim at that point. But absolute chaos there in turn 1. More chaos happening there. Who's that now? The 48 car. Oh, they're going to get it? No.
It is getting messy, and that was race leader Richard Swindles. So he was able to defend for the lead, and then a self-inflicted error. He just spun out 2 corners down the road and then got absolutely smashed by the 27 of Clovis Girard. So the tail of the tape for lap number 1 is carnage. Half of the cars to pit road and to the race lead all of a sudden. Marching to the front of the field after all of that is Nikanamev.
That's an absolutely fantastic result from Nikanamev. And I could see at the race start as well, he was quite aggressive in where he wanted to be, but I just had a look at Girard. His car is pooched. The left front wheel it's held on by the tethers and nothing really more at that point. So, you know, despite my motivational speech, I'd say it's fair to say he's brown bread at this point. So I think that's the night for him. But certainly, definitely shook up the order incredibly. Nikardenbev, you know, he's doing great. He's out in first. Carter, well, he's out of it. Isn't he out of it? No, he's in ninth. Well, we lost, by the look of it, we lost Phil Amaro, Clovis Gerard, Zach Buchanan, Graham Long. 4 cars absolutely eating the dust in that first lap.
It was messy. We saw cars up and in the air. The person who I think lost the most on the start of the race was the bright green entry of Graham Lobin, who got a right rear tire nicked. It sent him airborne up and over a couple of times, and who would have thought the car that flipped several times isn't even in last? 13th spot ahead of several more cars as we kind of pick up the pieces and see what's left as we head into the final 12. Challenge for the lead. Nikardenbev, Horvath trying to make a move. The 382 took a peek, doesn't pull the trigger. Those top 2 are over 3 seconds ahead of the next closest car, so they've got ample space before John Benvalid to fight this out between the 2 of them.
Yeah, certainly, you know, we've seen Horvath, he does have really good pace. Sometimes consistency isn't necessarily his strong point, like, in all honest review, but you know what? He's on the nose. He's got the nose on the tail of Nikardenbev there, and you know what? At the 2 positions, that's the one I prefer to be. You know, put the guy ahead of you under pressure, make them sweat, make them feel, you know, that you're closing down on him, and he's certainly doing that. He's only about 10th behind. Like, if they were any closer, they would be touching at this point.
Let's take a look back at what happened over the course of this. And one more driver now off track there. Look at the carnage, the 4 or 5 cars that are parked on pit road, and many of them missing body panels and whatnot. Shows you what has happened. And there was one of the more recent spins. That was the 16 car who had been in the lead, but then spun at about turn number 3, right? This was after the initial wreck in lap number 1 of this race. He spun out, lost a ton of spots, and now a change for the race lead with live action as Nick Horvath has been able to make the move on Assad Nikardenbev. So lots going on, but for the first time, it is a change for the lead with the 382 car going to the point.
I was just seeing the replay there, just some of the pyrrhic action from the first lap. You know, I think the biggest thing to take away from that, guys, was cold tires. You know, as I was saying it earlier, you know, you've just gone and run a race and the car's up to temperature, the tires are up to temperature, you know, everything's like a little bit stickier, you know, and then just to get straight back in the car, certainly for the last race, you're more amped up even more. But certainly, you know, Horvath's looking good right now. He's took the lead, Nikardenbev right behind him. As here we go, we're back at the race start. As you can see here, Nikardenbev making them aggressive moves at the start, and you know, obviously it worked out for him. He got away with it. Slow down the action there. That is the 16 of Swindles there. But we're having a look at the back of the field. Who's this now? I'm going to have to get my binoculars out for this one, but you can see the sheer carnage. Broomhead looks like he's getting mixed up in that. Buchanan mixed up. That looks like Stuart Ross as well. Bill Kobe is in there, and the gentleman who had the wolf, gentleman had the wolf on his car. He was in there as well, but absolute chaos. But the good news is Clovis Gerard is actually back out on track again and in 13th position.
You're trying to bounce back and really just in a recovery mode after the carnage of the opening 30 seconds of this race. Drivers trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what they could gain, and you know, how big is this night going to have in the championship battle, right? Benvalid seemed like he was playing from behind early, but a mistake from Ross, a good night from Broomhead up until you know, these later stages in which now Benvalid outrunning Broomhead. I think those two are going to be closer than ever in the points. I think the mistake by Ross and Clovis Gerard also having a bad night, came into tonight 4th in the championship. He's down in 14th. I think we're going to see, for the first time really all season long, a real separation between the championship leaders and the rest of the field. I think 1 and 2 are going to be close when we leave tonight, and 3rd and 4th are going to have a big disadvantage at the halfway point of the season. Now, the caveat is that there's still 8 minutes and 43 seconds and counting on the clock, so we are not done yet. And that's very clear in this battle for the lead as Nikonimbev, after losing the lead, led the opening 2 laps of this race, but Nick Horvath got around him, has not allowed Horvath to pull away. He stays glued within about a car length of the gearbox, trying to get back to the #1 spot.
Well, right now, my eyes are on Michael Broomhead. Despite the carnage he picked up earlier, he's currently in 5th place, and he's chasing down Matthew Murphy with Keenan Harris right behind him. I think this is going to be the battle of the race myself. As you can see there, Broomhead trying to do a little bit of over-under there with Keenan Harris right behind him. I say that, are they going to go 3 wide? They certainly thought about it. As you see, Murphy's dropped back there. He's dropped right back. I'm not sure what happened there. Like, I don't imagine it was a slowdown or anything. I don't know how you could even do that at Donnington. But Broomhead moves up into 4th place. Now, this is good because, as you see here, John Beverly, he's only 2 seconds up the road. So, as you can see, 1st and 3rd in the championship are currently 3rd and 4th in this race. So, we could have multiple points impacts coming from this evening.
And that's why, missing out so much is Stuart Ross. Because of the issues earlier, and yes, he's been able to bounce back somewhat, a P4 in the second race, 10th currently in this one, but just the consistency out of Benville mainly, and then the bounce back by Broomhead means that it is those two, I think, who are going to be getting a stranglehold on the championship by the time we are done here, and we look forward to headed to the Netherlands for the next race in a couple of weeks' time. But not done yet is the key. The late race self-spins came all the way down to the final lap in that second race. So can you keep your discipline and stay in this one to the end? Nikonimbev has slipped off of the back of Horvath. That battle for the lead no longer there. You're watching the best stuff on track right now from 3rd on back. Benvilid's got it. Broomhead wants it. It's head-to-head between the top 2 in the points, with Keenan Harris watching on from 5th.
Well, as you say that as well, that gap was 2 seconds. Broomhead's closed it down to a second, but the problem is as well, Harris and Murphy are coming with him. I think maybe Murphy decided, you know what, Broomhead's pretty hot around here. I'm just going to sit behind him because he could lead them onto Benvelid, and then not only that, from Benvelid, can they then catch up, maybe have a run at 1st and 2nd, Broomhead is absolutely on it tonight, and I'm glad he's not listening right now, because the extra ballast of the sheer ego inflation would potentially weigh him down. But he's driving fantastically tonight, and I'm really proud of the guy. Hopefully he can keep it together, but certainly you can see here Keenan Harris, excellent onboard shot there as they're going down. I think that's into Redgate if I remember right. Like, absolutely flooring it, trying to stay on the tail with them.
Benville mentioning as well that he has wheel damage, so there's the 08 car hindered late in this race. He will allow Broomhead and Harris to pass him, so another wrinkle in the championship storyline of this 3rd round of the championship, is now your championship leader has a damaged wheel and does not have confidence in that race car. And if that's the case, he just lost 2 spots. There's going to be more to come.
He's definitely on the conveyor belt in reverse at this point. It's not what he's had in mind, but I will say as well, John Benville, very respectful gentleman racer. If he hasn't got the equipment to keep up with that pace right now, he's not going to fight it. There's nothing to be gained, and you know what? Like, although he could fight for the points, if the differential is that much, he knows it, and it's actually safer to just kind of hold back and let them go ahead. Potentially, maybe he can stay with the tail and protect himself from James Doherty, who was behind by 12 seconds. But you know what? If you're running a damaged car, it doesn't take long to lose that. But if I look at the last lap, Benvelid was almost a 1:14. Murphy behind him doing a 12.7. So, I'd definitely, I'd be trying to stay with these guys as much as I could if I was him. Stay in the tow.
Just try to be close enough so that if something happens, if there's contact, if somebody makes a mistake, you're within striking distance to pick up a quick pile of points should it be made available to you. Again, behind these cars, there's a couple of groups here and there, but so many drivers did not make it back on track after the opening incident that only the top 11 are actively on track. Amaro is it. After that, you got Gerard, Cantini, Lobin, and Buchanan. Those drivers all, again, out of this race at this point. really heavily concentrated is this top 5, because they were really the only ones to be able to make it through scot-free with that accident right here on the opening lap of the race down in turn number 1. Nikonombev's advantage has begun to shrink, though. He had pulled to a 1-second gap over Nick Horvath. It has evaporated, and the 382 is back on the gearbox, looking to challenge for the race lead, closing in on 3 minutes to go.
He's definitely keen, and I've got to say, Nikonobev, his driving since starting in BiS has vastly improved. As I say that, as Horvath goes in on the inside, side by side. Was that contact then? It looked pretty close.
They're getting aggressive not only in the battle for the lead, but also behind them, as they may have gotten away with a close touch there. So Horvath showing his cards, though. He's going to be aggressive. You leave the inside open, he's going to go for it. And if you're Assad Nikonobev, how do you respond to that? Do you drive defensively? Or do you run your race and try to keep a half eye on a dive bomb if it comes from behind? 10 laps will fall to the rear view mirror this time by. Enough time for maybe 2 more trips around Donnington.
There's definitely, as you say that, Broomhead has closed that gap between first and second. Him and third, he's closed it from 3 seconds all the way down to 2 seconds. So, you know what? These guys better get this battle sorted out quickly, because otherwise Broomhead, Harris, they're going to be in on the mix as well. We're going to have a 4-way fight for the lead.
We'll see if they can close in. The gap continues to drop now to 2.2 seconds. You saw it right there. Broomhead and Harris watch it on from the wings in 3rd and 4th position. Up the road from these race leaders is clean racetrack for a couple of sets of corners, so lapped traffic should not be a factor depending on the pace of those other cars, but at least it's no immediate threat. Horvath again trying to get the draft right here as they head to one of the fastest parts of the circuit. He'll go down to the left-hand side. Horvath and Nikonobev side by side for the race lead. Nikonobev stays on the inside and defends the race lead. Coming to 1 lap to go.
Oh, I honestly thought they was going to try and go too wide through the chicane there, but I'm also watching the battle behind. Benville, despite having that damaged car, he is not letting Murphy get a free pass, and they have been exchanging position now for that pass lap a couple of times. But I think Horvath versus Nikonobev, that's going to be the action. Broomhead, he's closed in even closer now, 1.4 seconds. I think they just needed another lap, maybe 2, and it would have been that 4-way fight. But we'll certainly see if Nikonobev gets in too much of a side-by-side action with Horvath. Broomhead's going to be there on it. The gap now almost a second.
It is astounding how much gap the drivers in 3rd and 4th have been able to close in. The last lap, they were both more than a second and a half faster than those 2 cars in the lead. But just like Horvath, will Broomhead and Harris run out of time? Big swing for Horvath that time. Tried to get to the quarter panel and onto the rear tire of Assad Nikonobev. It is the high-speed run down to the final complex of corners. Horvath gets all the way there. He throws it in, but he can't get it to stick on the exit. And across the start-finish line, checkered flag, Assad Nikonobev wins the 3rd and final feature in a thrilling finish.
Oh, that was tight. I was watching that as well. I was thinking that was going to go too wide. And not only that, Harris nearly took Broomhead as they head towards the line. What a race. Well done, Nikonobev. Is that his first race win here? Like, that's absolutely fantastic for the young lad. Like, yeah, he's got silvers.
And some celebrations off in the gravel trap for Assad Nikonobev. His previous best finish of the year was a runner-up in the final race at Road Atlanta, and for the first time of this season, it is a checkered flag.
What a fantastic evening of racing. Just fantastic.
And I think finishing on a high note with the best finish, and maybe the craziest race as well, given all the carnage we saw in the opening 1.9 miles of this race on that first lap, and then a thrilling finish, is a great way to end the 3rd week and officially mark the halfway point of this BiS F1600 Championship Series. We'll try to maybe get a word with some of these drivers in just a moment. First, we take a look at your race results for the third and final feature of the night. Nikanabev takes home the checkered flag atop Nick Horvath and Michael Broomhead. Those are big names in terms of the championship, but it is Harris with a good bounce back, Murphy in the top 5, and John Benvalid entered tonight as their championship leader, will likely exit in second after he slips to P6 in this final one. Doherty comes home in 7th spot, Carter in 8th with Ross and Swindles rounding out your top 10. Only 9 drivers finish on the lead lap in this one. A lap down will go to 11th place to Amar Gerard, also a lap down in 12th. Covey 2 laps down in 13th. Cartini 10 back in 14th. The rest of the drivers on the hook in the garage before the night was done. Lobin, Buchanan, Brooks, and Pritchard is a look top to bottom at your full race results from tonight's third and final sprint race here at Donnington. So we've left the United States behind with Road Atlanta and Chicago to the wayside, and we'll spend the next couple of weeks here in Europe with a trip to the Netherlands coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But at least here at Donnington, Zippy, you mentioned how much you enjoy this racetrack. Did it live up to the hype for you?
Oh, definitely. This is one of the races where, it's a hard choice. Do I want to be in the booth or do I want to be on the track? And certainly Donnington, National, F1600, you know what? I would have had a great time on the track, but generally speaking, I'm probably safer in the booth. I would have caused a few incidents. Clovis Gerard, actually, he didn't have the best night. Well, he didn't have the best night in the Radicals, bless him, because he hit me on one of them, but that was my fault, I'll admit. So, yeah, I'm generally safer in the booth, but great racing tonight, I've got to say as well. Some excellent moves, some close racing. I'm really pleased with the quality we got to watch tonight. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, we have some of the drivers available to chat, so let's see who we're going to talk with first. We've got a couple of drivers available. Why not start at the top of the series and go to Assad Nikanabev, who takes home the checkered flag in this third and final sprint race of the afternoon. And we're trackside now with him. Assad, congratulations on the win. You had a runner-up earlier this season, but it's your first checkered flag. Congrats. Can you hear us all right, Assad?
We can't hear your mic there, sir.
I like to call that the speechless effect. We'll give Assad a chance to chat with us. We'll let him work on that microphone, and we'll try again with him. Instead, let's head down to Nick Horvath, who was P2 on the night. Zip, I'll give this one to you.
Nick Horvath, we're going to steal you very quickly. Tell us a little bit about your race. Certainly, you gave us some good action here in the booth. What was it from your seat?
I mean, really, it was just trying to claw back what I could, especially after starting P2 in the first round. Just a bad first round, and just sort of head down and made up some spots going through the second split, and then the final was just about trying to be as clean as possible. Really, once everyone else started crashing, it was just hold position and just try to keep pace.
Oh, it's definitely a busy race for sure. That first lap was absolute carnage. Now, I was talking a little bit earlier about, was there like a particular place that, it was tactical to pass, tactical to defend? Like, what could you give us for a bit of a review on that?
Honestly, after going 3 or 2 wide through most of the course, pretty much anywhere was game. It's really like you kind of had to follow for about a lap or so, but as soon as you can pick off someone's weak spots, just make a move on the inside or the outside, and half the times if you can get the traction down and just sort of keep it straight, you can either keep it alongside and make a move into the next corner after that, or you can really hold position with these cars and fight really well. The only thing I was really worried about was netcodes, because I know that's what got me out on the first round. It's just trying to keep close enough, but leave enough space so that it was going to be clean.
Yeah, it was definitely, there was a few people who were, thankfully no penalties, at least if they did, I didn't see them, but, thankfully no penalties tonight. But Nick, is there anybody you want to thank this evening?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely going to thank Mike for putting this whole thing on. Guy spends so much time putting all this together. It's such a fun series. Also going to thank my teammates back on Lead Paw Racing. They're just awesome to deal with. Big thanks to them for letting me do this with Britannia. Really, that's about it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Nick Horvath. Thank you very much for coming in, and we're going to see you at the next round. We're going to catch up with Assad Nikardenbab again. I understand he's fixed his microphone. Evan, I understand you had some questions for him?
Let's give it another try, Assad. You got us this time?
I think yes.
We've got you. Well, hey, congratulations on the win. You had a second place finish earlier this season. I think that was the final race at Road Atlanta, but what does it feel like to get your first win on the year?
It feels amazing after all these races so far. It feels good to have a race win finally, and yeah.
Well, you seem to be pretty quick all night, right? You finished second place in the first race, and of course, the win in the last one here. Is there something about this track in Donnington that you like so much, or was this more so maybe bad luck didn't come and you guys just had a cleaner race?
I think it was just the track how I liked it because this track with the F1600 it suits my driving style really well because there's some sausage curbs like for example the chicane you can hit them like all you want and you'll be fine, and that's what I really like about this track. And yeah, I think this track and this car, I think that combination made it so I have win today.
Well, we're halfway through the year, 4 races down, 3 points races down, and 3 more still to go. Are there any tracks in the second half of the season that you're looking forward to and are excited for?
I thinking I I'm not sure what the next tracks are. I think there's Road Atlanta. I think let me check right now. Give me a second. There's um okay. I'm gonna be excited for Mount Panorama. That's definitely gonna be a fun track with this car, including the elevation. Definitely be fun. And yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one as well. That'll be our second and final special event of the season. But at least tonight, as a race winner in this BiS Formula 1600 series, Assad, congratulations. Anybody want to say hi to?
Thank you, and I want to say hi to my family that are watching the video live on TV right now, and I want to, yeah.
Well, thank you for sticking around and chatting with us. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll talk to you again in a couple weeks.
Yep, it was fun talking with you guys.
That's your race winner from sprint race number 3 and one of the top points getters of the night here at Donnington. Assad Nikardenbab walking away with a second, a 7th, and a 1st for his first win of the season. I think we'll continue things down the order, Zippy, and I'll toss this one back to you, to the driver who was the championship leader headed into tonight. That's John Benvalid.
Mr. Benvalid, I just wanted to bring you in here, have a little bit of a chat. Now, tell us a little bit about what was happening at the towards the end of that last race. You let Broomhead and Harris go by, but then Murphy, you definitely weren't handing it to him, and then you guys were battling in the last lap despite your damaged car. Tell us a little bit about how that went down.
Yeah, unfortunately, my wheel was sideways the entire race, so I just tried to keep it on track, and then this didn't happen to me once in practice, but I got a 1-second slowdown going into T1. That's why I had to let him go, and from there it was just survive to the end and take the P6.
Well, it's certainly a colourful race. I believe you were a hard charger in one of them. Like, absolutely fantastic evening for you in terms of point-wise, but are you not a little bit worried where Broomhead just absolutely raking in the points this evening?
Yeah, I know. Even with the drops, I think Zach's gonna be right up there. So will Keenan, but Broomhead's got mega pace. It's crazy. So worried. I think this track really doesn't suit my driving. So hopefully next time I can come back a little bit stronger. All that really matters to us is the Lima points.
Well, that is fantastic. Certainly, as a team, you guys have been probably the best represented, not just in the F1600s, but in the Radicals as well. Definitely more talented than myself behind the wheel of a Radical. But having a quick look at the schedule there, like you said, this track maybe isn't one of your favorites per se. Which one would you say more is your style for the F1600s? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, looking forward to. Honestly, I don't remember the tracks off by heart, but I think just the fast corners. That's where I struggle. And this track is just pure fast corners, and slipping it in there, getting it on the right angle, and just hammering the gas. I was constantly off it. I knew that. The radicals last week, you saw the same thing. I spun out lap one in the feature. First time racing it actually last week, so it was a lot of fun though. A lot of fun.
Well, I'm a little bit biased, so I'm going to say that Donington is one of the best tracks in the world.
Oh, it is. It's great. It's great.
Attaboy. You're picking up what I'm putting down. But next race is at Zandvoort in a couple of weeks. Have you driven there before?
Oh, I drove there. I love the banking. A lot of fun. Haven't driven there much, so definitely got to get a lot of practice in the next week.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's John Benvelid. Is there anybody you want to thank, sir?
No, just Team Lima. Everyone's either on vacation, working, and hopefully next week come back a little bit strong and get those points back on the board.
All right, well, that's absolutely fantastic stuff. And I will say as well, John Benvelid, a great supporter of the BIS series, often putting up practice sessions. I'll say on behalf of BIS, thank you very much for doing that, and we'll catch you in the next race the next week in the Radicals. Thank you very much. But we're going to bring in Mike Broomhead as well. He is the series organizer and also your pole sitter. Evan, did you want to speak to the man in charge?
Yeah, it was I think the best night so far this season for Michael Broomhead. Is he gets a third, a first, and a third. Michael, congratulations. What was different? What made it all click here tonight?
It's the home field advantage, I would say. I do love the British tracks, but I also love the tracks that are very long corners, a lot of fast speeds, and just chuck the car in and sort of drift it. I really like that. I learned my craft, I guess, in F1600 at Motorsports, so this is a similar kind of thing.
So a little bit of home cooking and a racetrack that serves your racing style well. And, admittedly, it's hard to find a spot in your results this year that have had much of a lull, right? But there had always been a race, right? If it was the last two at Road Atlanta or the last one at Chicago, right, that got away from you at least a little bit. But tonight, podiums in every single one. That means that your last 6 race result finishes combined would be a second. You didn't get the great result in that last one at Chicago, but then again tonight, a third, a first, and a third. You've been chipping away at the likes of Ross, and you had been battling with Stewart early, but he had some issues. Doesn't get a great points haul tonight. John Benvelid had been the championship leader. You're right in this thing all of a sudden after 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we got the drops coming up between this race and the next, so it's going to throw a little bit of a who knows what will happen sort of into it. I'm just trying to accumulate the best results I can. Obviously, there's going to be races that I mess up at or get collected or whatever it may be. So I'm just trying to maximize where I can. But yeah, tonight was fun. It was really good to push that last race as well. We almost got there, but not quite.
Well, you've already alluded to Mosport, which is going to be the last race of the season, but in order to get there and get yourself in position, what's going to be the key is we continue to dance across the world and head to Zandvoort and then Phillip Island in the next couple of weeks, talking points wise.
Yeah, just consistency, just putting points on the board and maximizing every opportunity. You can't always win these races. They're very, very competitive. Anybody can win. Like, we've had a lot of different winners this season already. Very few repeat winners. So it's just going to be about maximizing where you can, getting those extra points where possible, and just being there at the end. Really, there's a bit of carnage in the last race, so getting through that, even though I went across the grass to do so, I think was my best choice. It's going to be about that, and let's have some fun while doing it.
I'm on board with that. We'll let you jump out of here, Michael, but of course, there's so much that goes into putting all of this on, not only organizing, but competing in this series. So what have you got? Anybody want to say hi to?
Yeah, of course, hi to the family and the sponsors and the team and everything. And of course, everybody who races Radical as well with us. We're looking forward to our IndyCar season that we're going to start up now that the IndyCar announcement is back. And, thanks to you guys for all this. Without everybody I've mentioned here, none of this will be possible. So thanks, guys. And let's go again next week in Radicals.
We'll catch you next time out. Thanks for chatting, Michael.
Thank you.
He's your race winner tonight in the second of the sprints, but your top point scorer on the afternoon as Michael Broomhead makes a big swing in terms of making this championship battle an exciting one. And Zippy, all of a sudden, it is 3 down and 3 to go. We are halfway through this BiS Formula 1600 Championship Series season. And there is still so much more to look forward to, including now a championship battle that may be tighter than ever as we look forward to our next race in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, it's going to be good. Zandvoort as well with the banking is going to be hot. But then the King of the Mountain Bathurst as well. I also think that one's going to be pretty colourful. If I remember rightly, I think Bathurst may be like an open round as well. So I don't think there's point. Yeah,
Yes.
there's no points scored at Bathurst. So I think it's going to be great for us as spectators. Maybe not so great for the points, but it's just going to add fuel to the fire. But certainly a great evening tonight, and I'm looking forward to the next one, Evan.
And we hope that you all tune in with us for those as well. The F1600 is going to be every other Wednesday night right here on Podium. Until next time, though, that does it for our coverage here tonight from Donnington. I want to say a big thanks to our presenting sponsors of tonight's coverage, both MotorRacingChecklist.com 2.0 and Turn 1 Sim Racing, where champions are born. On behalf of our entire team at Podium, for everybody behind the scenes here and at BIS, and for your broadcast team tonight, for our producer Christian Hill, for Daniel Salmon, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations are in order to all three of your race winners tonight: Keenan Harris, Michael Broomhead, and Hassan Nakanembev, all finding victory lane. The road to the championship continues in 2 weeks' time from Zandvoort. That race and every race of the BiS Formula 1600 Championship Series can be found exclusively here on Podium. Until next time, good night from Donnington.
If you really want to improve your driving technique, you cannot just ask someone to tell you when to brake or when to turn. You have to learn how the car wants you to drive it. You have to learn car handling techniques, and that's where I excel at. The Motor Racing Checklist is the work of my life, currently with 2,000 drivers registered, and here's the thing: if you don't improve in 30 days, you get your money back. So give it a try. If you have any questions, just send me a message. I'm always available to answering these questions. This course is made for high-level drivers. If you're a beginner, you're gonna use it for a long time, because all these concepts will help you right away, but the more you improve, the more you understand them, and then you're able to squeeze every concept to the limit, and you're gonna gain precision to be able to apply them in a very subtle way that most people don't even notice a difference in your driving. But those are the small things that make you improve a tenth per corner, and then if you just add up those tenths, you realize you're 1 second faster than everyone else. Give it a try. If you have any question, just send me a message.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.